Hello, everybody, and welcome to another one of our sessions, which is created around my book, Breaking Down Barriers, which you can see here, Breaking Down Barriers, my journey from a small African village to the world stage. And what I do is I take you through some thoughts and ideas that I've developed through my book in order that you get an idea of some of the questions that I believe you need to ask yourself, some of the ideas and philosophies that I have, which have got me to where I am today, leaving this small African village in Nigeria and being literally on the world stage, whether as a keynote speaker, master of ceremony, or being a leader in my field of retail. The question that I would ask you to address is, where does family sit in your constellation? How important is family to you? Have you thought about it? Many people don't, actually. We get up every morning, we do what we do, like we brush our teeth, get dressed, take the metro, the tube, the whatever transport, get on our motorbikes, get on our cars, go to work, and then come back and repeat, repeat, repeat. But have you stopped to think, even when you get to the weekend, it may be that you're so exhausted that you just don't have time, whether you're the mother, the father, or even if you don't have children and it's your parents or your siblings. Who are those that matter most to you, who are part of your family? And so this chapter is entitled, Family is Precious, Treasure It. Family is precious, treasure it. Okay, now you're going to maybe put your hands up and say, listen, you don't know my family. My family is totally dysfunctional. I have issues all the time with my siblings, older, younger, not to mention if you want to include family as being your cousins and nieces and uncles and goodness knows what else. But I just wanted to keep it more to your immediate family, because beyond that is a little bit more complex, let's say. But I do start the sentence in that paragraph by saying all families are complicated. All families are complicated. I remember one of my closest friends, she is still at school, at the International School of Geneva. And I remember her saying we were about 4 or 5 that were really close, and 4 of us are still very close. And she said to us one day in school, we never fight in our family. She had 2 brothers and herself. She said, we're always, nothing ever. We're always absolutely in harmony. Now, I have to say, because she was the only girl and the rest of us were guys, were boys, we kind of had this, I don't think that's true. I just don't think that's true. Anyway, we never got to know the truth. It is, it isn't, it doesn't really matter. But she had this view and perception, and I have to say they were a strong-knit family for sure. If they are the only family that has never fought, never disagreed, never whatever, then quite frankly, they are unique on this planet. So not everybody's like that. Families are complicated. It is said that you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. How true is that? If we were able to swap members of our family out, would you do it? I'm sure the answer is on occasions, yes, maybe all the time, yes, maybe never, no matter how difficult your relationships are. So I go on and just explain my philosophy and thoughts around family and the importance of family. But here's what Michael J. Fox says, because I've got quotes in all the chapters. I love quotes, action items, critical thinking questions. And Michael J. Fox says, family is not an important thing. It's everything. It's not an important thing, it's everything. And quite frankly, I believe that. We have had ups and downs in my family, challenges and difficulties. But to be honest, I wouldn't say they've broken me. I wouldn't say any other member of the family has been broken, because we've learnt through the experiences that we each have as a parent, with my wife, we have responsibilities towards our children to ensure that they grow, they develop, they acquire all the skills, knowledge, and insight of what it's like to be children, young adults, the challenges that they will face, and us learning from them as well, but being there through each moment. And I used to travel a lot. I don't travel as much as I do now, but I was 4 days minimum, 3 minimum, 4 days very often on the road, because I was looking after a portfolio of over 200 stores in Europe when I first started working at Foot Locker, 8 countries, 220 stores. I was on the road permanently. I remember my wife saying, because we moved from Strasbourg to a place called Hilversum in the Netherlands, which is today's, for what it's worth, it's Nike's headquarters in Europe, but Nike wasn't there at the time. It was where Foot Locker's headquarters were close by. I traveled 3, but generally 4 days a week. And my wife said to me, I just don't know why you moved us from Strasbourg to the Netherlands when you spend most of your time away from home. So we had to work through that. We didn't have any fallouts or anything. She was and is amazing in just keeping us together. But the point I make is that given my travel over those years, and before, quite frankly, I was concerned that my children, 2 at the time, for example, were not being given the fatherly love, stability, etc., that I wanted and needed to give. Now, I remember going to the kids' school once and asking for I asked for an appointment with the headmistress at school. In fact, I was living between Switzerland and Strasbourg. And I was really concerned that I was not there doing my fatherly duties to help raise my children. And I spoke to the headmistress, took the appointment, and she said, you know what? I have to reassure you, Mr. Igwe, your 2 daughters, your children, are 2 of the most grounded and balanced children in the school. I don't have any issues with them at all. So the fact that you may not see them much, but clearly what you were giving as a family nucleus, you, your wife, because my wife was there picking them up and taking them home, and I was away the whole week. In fact, I worked 5 days away from home and then came back at the weekend. But the weekend I devoted to the children. So you've got to find that balance. It can be done. And then, of course, phone calls, FaceTime, whatever we have these days, technology, which we didn't have back in those days. But family is critically important. So where do you put them in the hierarchy of what you see as important in your life? So family is precious. Treasure it. And in the book, one of the stories, the story that I tell is one where I almost lost my entire family as a result of a near fatal car accident. My wife was 8 months pregnant and she had our 2 daughters in the car. One was about 2.5 and the other was 5.5, plus being 8 months old. She was in a coma. The 3-year-old, 2.5-year-old was in a coma. Long story, pretty horrific as you can imagine. That was a tough time. That was a very, very tough time for all of us. I left my office, drove down the 10 hours, 8-hour drive to get down there. I was going at speed that I wasn't flashed, I wasn't caught, but I was just in a total state when the police finally informed me 10 hours, in fact, after the accident happened, they were finally able to track me down. And I just pedal to the metal, as they say, and I just screamed down to, from the Netherlands down to Germany, where the car accident had happened. So what I'm talking about here is a very deep, strong awareness about the importance of family. I don't ever want you to get to that stage. But remember and appreciate who they are for what they are today, with all the challenges and difficulties that they will create, going through adolescence, going through challenging you as a parent, going through disobedience perhaps, doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. All these are part of the journey of raising children and being there for your children. Now, inevitably, as I'm sure with many of you, I know families that have broken up for different reasons. Everybody's journey is unique. You can't match yours against anybody else. But if through listening to this, you can at least say, Either I'm grateful, it's a huge blessing, or I need to take care of this or these things, and I'm prepared to invest the time, effort, and energy because it is exhausting raising children. I remember someone saying once, I can't remember who had that quote, but as I say, I love quotes. Raising children is like being pecked to death by a chicken. Raising children is like being pecked to death by a chicken. Now, I find that a very hilarious comment, because us coming from Nigeria, you see the way in which chickens do peck and they do bite and they take their seeds, corn, whatever they're eating. So it's just that constant, almost like, water against the rock, this attrition that you have with your children, let alone your spouse, with whom you may have disagreements and different views and so on, which are all part of being a parent. So my story in terms of my wife and children, like I say, long, painful story, some amazing, amazing doctors that took care of them. My 8-month-old daughter was born out of cesarean. I was sleeping in the hospital. They privatized the whole ward just for me and my daughter, that the older one, who was awake but traumatized by what she saw because she witnessed the accident. And through that process, with my daughter being born out of cesarean, where they had to get my authorization to do so because my wife was still in a coma, all those things all played together to just remind me in the most stark manner the fact that there are things that we should not take for granted. There are things that we do take for granted. But if I can help through this chapter, through these words, through this communication to you, family demands so much of us. But there is no alternative to being there for them in their moments of greatest need and challenge. And if they don't need you, they still need you. That kind of sounds weird, but trust me, they do, and they still do, and I love being there for them. So there's never an age, even when they've left the house, where if you create that environment of love, support, communication, permanent communication through the highs and the lows. Is it easy? No. Does it work for everybody? No. I'm not here to tell you that any of that is true, but what I'm saying is be aware of the importance of family, whether it's your actual or your extended, and be the best that you can be to each and every one in that family. So with that, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And I will look forward to seeing you very soon for another video. Thank you.